What's going on, everybody? Thank you for joining me. As always, you can follow me on Instagram at DreamRare. You can follow me on Twitter at Legendary Energy. You can check out my website at legendary.vision. And you can donate to my donor box. It's at the top of my page and at the top comment on most live streams if you'd like to support my news analysis and video content. I wanted to talk today about the massive hurricanes that are forming in the ocean, as well as DACA. So I'm going to wait about 5 seconds for everybody to get into the live stream, and I'm going to begin. Thank you for joining. Hello, Crystal. So first off, I want to start, before I talk about the hurricanes, I want to talk about the DACA, which has everybody, up in arms. I took a whole day to really take it in. I listened to all sides. I watched CNN for a little bit. I listened to what CNN's saying. I listened to MSNBC. I listened to Fox News. I checked out, your classic liberal news sources. I looked at what Breitbart was saying. I looked at what everyone on Twitter was saying, and I looked at actual proof of what Obama and Trump themselves were saying. And here's a few things about the DACA that no one seems to be talking about, or at least not a lot of people, excuse me. The first one is that there's multiple videos, and just to get it out of the way, I want to say I support a path to legal citizenship for illegal immigrants. So that's my personal view. I support a path to citizenship. I'm not someone who just says send them all back. But with the DACA, there's a lot of dishonest reporting going on. First of all, Barack Obama himself, President Obama, when he was in office, there's literally no exaggeration, over 10 videos of him 10 different times saying that him doing an executive order to do what he did with the DACA would have been unconstitutional, broken the law, and been, in his own words, not appropriate for him to do as president. So before he even passed that law and did an executive order for the DACA, there's literally video clips. You can Google it, YouTube it, or check on Twitter. 10 different times he said that it was unconstitutional, that it would break the law. So those are his own words before he did it. He passed it, and it's a temporary solution. And something I just want to get out of the way is that, I went to a protest yesterday. I talked to people. I see everybody on Twitter and Facebook. President Trump, regardless of how you feel about it, whether you agree with me or disagree, he didn't end it. He passed it to Congress to figure it out. They have 6 months to figure it out, to pass it through legally and do their job. If you've been paying attention this year, Congress doesn't seem to know how to do their job. I think the Republican congressmen, as well as the Democrat congressmen, I don't really trust any of them. And they had, 8 years to figure out, 4 years to figure out a health care plan, and they couldn't do that. That's why I do like the slogan, drain the swamp, because besides maybe Rand Paul, I don't trust any of the Republican congressmen or the Democrat ones. They all are basically liars. All they do is point the finger on Twitter, and they can't seem to do their job. They couldn't do their job with healthcare, and we'll see if they can do their job with the DACA. So that's all I really wanted to say. I watched what CNN was saying about it, and all they were doing was using identity politics. If you don't know what identity politics is, it means using race, religion, and gender to just, skirt around every subject and not have a rational discussion. So that's what CNN was doing. I watched Don Lemon talk to somebody, and I saw him blatantly lie. The guy said that Obama himself said it was unconstitutional, which he did. I have video proof of it. There's videos all over the internet of him saying that, and they're acting like that's a lie. I watched Rachel Maddow for 2 minutes, and within 2 minutes, she said that President Trump thinks all Mexicans are rapists. She talked about Muslims. She talked about Russia. She's still talking about Russia, even amongst Vladimir Putin, who had a very intelligent comment. He said, whoever rules AI, artificial intelligence, will control the world, because as you can see, technology is rapidly advancing and artificial intelligence will be a real problem. Elon Musk, one of the top technological leaders of the world, has said that. Vladimir Putin said it yesterday, but instead of sharing that with her audience, Rachel Maddow is still on a Russia witch hunt despite all of this stuff. It's pretty pathetic. Fox News was having a discussion about it. I listen to everybody, but as always, like I say to people, it's not even that I agree with President Trump all the time. It's not even that I'm not conservative, I'm not Republican, but CNN and MSNBC, they're literal liars. All they do is lie. They don't want to have a rational discussion like I just had about DACA. They won't tell you that Obama said it's constitutional. They won't tell you that it's temporary. So even if President Trump did nothing, it wasn't going to last, and there are steps that it has to be taken to be passed officially. CNN and Rachel Maddow and MSNBC, even if you're part of the resistance, they're a losing strategy to watch people like them, because all they do is race, religion, gender. They scream, they yell, they say, you know, Mexico, Muslims, Russia. It's like a loop. It's like a pull string doll. So even if you're pro or anti-DACA, I would say don't watch those networks. All they do is lie. All they do is manipulate their top-level propagandists. And I just wanted to get that out of the way about DACA because it's a very controversial subject. But those are the things that most news is not talking about. Is that one, there's 10 clips of Obama saying that he wasn't allowed to do that, that it was unconstitutional. 2, it's temporary. And 3, it's not been canceled, it's not been closed down. They're not shipping everybody back or whatnot. It's a 6-month plan. It goes back to Congress to do their job. That's what Congress is supposed to do. And to people that accuse me because I have rational thoughts, they say I'm a right-wing shill in disguise, whatever. I'm really not. I think all of the Republican, congressmen are pretty pathetic to the point where they're lying to your face and they have no shame about it. 2 years ago, Paul Ryan was anti-DACA very strongly, took a big Republican stance. Today, John McCain, they oppose President Trump. They don't even explain why. They don't explain why they had a change of heart. They just do it and expect you to not even know about it. Same with President Obama. He says, I'm vehemently opposed, but he won't tell you that he said before he passed it that it was unconstitutional and that there is an actual set of laws and way to handle it. To me, they're all liars. That's why someone like President Trump won. Whether you like him or dislike him, whether you think he's a liar, I know he lies as well. I'm not saying he's perfect, but what I am saying is politicians are bottom of the barrel, low liars. All they do is lie 24/7. The fact that even Republicans are, disagreeing with President Trump just shows me how tightly knit that politicians are. It's never been Democrat or Republican. It's really been two wings to the same bird. They've just been playing a game like baseball, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, to really confuse people and, get people going back and forth and not getting to a solution, never telling the truth, just a bunch of, childish banter. So I wanted to just say that. But as always, God bless all Americans. God bless even the illegal citizens here. I have a lot of care and I hope the best thing happens. I just want to get the right message out, because to the anti-Trump crowd, I've tried to explain many times, I'm saying this not to be mean. I'm saying this because it's the truth. The reason that President Trump won is he says something, DACA or the wall or travel ban, and the counter argument is never rational. It's never like, hey, build a wall, and then they're like, no, don't build a wall, here's what we should do. Or travel ban, here, no, don't do travel ban, here's what we should do. DACA, don't do DACA, here's what we should do. It's always just screaming racism, sexism, and xenophobia, and that's why he won in the first place, because an argument or a solution beats a just screaming racism and sexism. If you want to defeat Donald Trump or you want a better candidate, you have to learn what you're talking about. Learn what the DACA is. Don't believe CNN and Fox News or MSNBC, any of them. Find out what it actually is, because if you're just screaming racism and sexism, it makes no sense. I made a tweet which I think is pretty accurate. Like I said, I support a path to citizenship for the illegals, but where a lot of quote-unquote liberals are hypocrites is they say, don't send the dreamers back to Mexico, it's too dangerous there, they don't know it. But then those same people say, don't build a wall or don't up border security. It's racist to do that. So you got to pick one. Is Mexico dangerous and you don't want to send these people back? Or is it not dangerous and we should open the borders? It makes no sense. If you want to oppose President Trump, you can't just go back and forth like, oh, I hate James Comey, I love James Comey, I hate Jeff Sessions, I love Jeff Sessions, I love immigrants, I hate... It's ridiculous. You have to get a solution. You have to learn what you're talking about. I'm saying this as a friend. I'm not saying this as mean. I'm not conservative. I'm not even right-wing. I'm just rational, sensible, and I see the hypocrisy of the liberals. This is why Trump is going to keep succeeding until you learn what you're talking about and stop following the news. They use race, religion, and gender to divide people, to confuse people, and to use people's emotions for a political agenda. It's been going on for years. In some ways, President Trump does the same thing. But, you know, he's the president right now. He won the election, and that's where we're at. So with the DACA, those are my thoughts on it. You know, don't hate, don't get mad, just consider and listen, because honestly, if you keep following these known liars, even if you're right about what you're talking about with your emotions and your consensus of that type of stuff, you're going to keep losing, because that's why President Trump won, because there is no common sense. When he said build a wall, Hillary Clinton said it's racist, and they keep, her and Rachel Maddow keep repeating, you know, all Mexicans are rapists. Trump said all Mexicans are rapists. He never said that. He said that some come over the border, and that's not a solution. If he says build a wall, you can't say racism. You have to have a solution. So with everything, the travel ban, please get a little bit more knowledgeable, have a counter solution. Don't say everything's racist and that we shouldn't have security. It makes no sense, and it's honestly a failing policy. So that's my thoughts on that. Now I want to talk about the hurricanes, because of course we had one of the biggest hurricanes, if not the biggest hurricane to ever hit in Texas recently, Hurricane Harvey. They're still suffering from it. We have people in Montana. It's been very reported, but Montana has had, I believe, over 1 million acres burned from wildfire. There's ash and smoke in the air. It's really affecting a lot of people in Montana, and there's been no coverage of it. You know, MSNBC, CNN, they don't care about Americans. I'm sure Fox News has covered it a little bit, but I'm not here to even talk about them. I am here to say, let's focus on our people. We have a lot of people who need help, and now we have Hurricane Irma that's building up. I believe it's a Category 5. They're saying it's the biggest hurricane ever in that region, and it's going to potentially devastate Puerto Rico and a lot of other areas. So I would say prayers to Puerto Rico, prayers to the Caribbean, and prayers for Florida. And more so than prayers, I want to help physically and, you know, hopefully financially to really figure out what's going on there. But with the hurricanes, I do want to elaborate. You're going to have some people saying it's natural disaster. You're going to have some people saying that it's climate change. You're going to have some people saying that it's geoengineering. I just want to put a few things together and tell you a little bit about what I think. First of all, when it comes to geoengineering, there's been something that conspiracy theorists have been talking about for a while. It's called HAARP, H-A-A-R-P. You know, an ocean machine or technology of some sort to manipulate the weather. It's a known fact. There's been patents since the 1970s and 1980s about manipulating the weather, and even Bill Gates, as recent as 10 years ago, filed patents to manipulate hurricanes. So that technology is either available or they're working on it. How I see the news reacting now, I used to think that stuff was just conspiratorial, it's just a conspiracy, but I see how the news works now, and I see how they try to censor anybody who tells the truth with an alternative perspective. So it really makes me think, with all of these hurricanes fueling up, and I'm not trying to fuel a conspiracy theory, but what I do want to say is that it's a fact that Google, who owns YouTube, recently this year they put out a big policy to demonetize a bunch of YouTube channels. Most people who talk about politics, who talk about world events, who talk about weather, they've gone from making six-figure salaries on YouTube if they're getting millions to tens of millions of views. Now they get $0. So YouTube and Google took away money from millions of users. And in their policy of demonetization policy, you could read it word for word, they said anybody who talks about politics, anybody who talks about world events, and anybody who talks about natural disasters is now demonetized, and you can't make money on your videos. To me, it's a little bit suspicious. They said even if graphic imagery isn't shown. So clearly they don't want people talking about politics, they don't want people talking about world events, and they don't want people talking about natural disasters. Why would they not want people to make money off of natural disasters, especially when a lot of the people that are talking about them could take that money and then send it to Harvey, send it to Irma, send it to the people to help the people after it happens. So I want to say, as that debate's going to keep heating up, you're going to have a lot of people saying climate change. You're going to have a lot of people saying regular natural disaster. You're going to have a lot of people saying geoengineer. Here's my thoughts on it. First of all, let's start with natural disasters. Of course, I think it's a strong possibility that there's a natural disaster. We've always had it. We've always had the heating and freezing of the climate. We've always had big floods. We've had big storms in human history. This has always happened. So especially when we have a big lunar eclipse, you know, something that clearly affects our solar system in some sort of way, we have big storms. I would say I'm open-minded. So one, a large portion of me thinks, yeah, it's just natural. On to climate change. Is the climate heating? Could the climate be heating? Part of me thinks, yeah, absolutely. I think our effect, more so than even our output of CO2, I think our spiritual and our human effect on the planet, of course we have an effect. Every cause has a reaction. So the fact that we're littering the oceans with plastic, what happens when any living being, if you litter it and pollute it with plastic? There's plastic islands 1.5 times the size of Texas just gathering in the ocean because we're polluting it. We don't care about a lot of things that we could easily care about. We have the intelligence to not use plastic, to not pollute the environment in some ways. So I do think cause has a reaction, but I do also think it's spiritual just as much as it is physical. And here's my big problem with the climate change debate, is that when they talk about it, all they say is fossil fuels, fossil fuels, fossil fuels. But if you really look at the science of it, if it is CO2 and methane, things like volcanoes and wildfires have massive effects, even more than fossil fuel. The animal agriculture industry has a big effect. These are things that no politicians are talking about. They're not talking about the animal agriculture industry, which some scientists say, causes as much as 75% of the climate change. What's up, brother? They're not talking. No, you're good. Yeah, get a cameo. They're not talking about the fact that volcanoes, when they erupt or when they let off smoke, that some scientists say that one exportation of gas from a volcano is as big as like every car in the United States for a year. Wildfires control. So they're not talking about a lot of the cause of climate change. Politicians just talk about fossil fuel. And also on that note, if it really is, if the climate is truly changing from man-made and fossil fuels and CO2 and methane, which I think is a large possibility, why is there no solutions? India recently this year, they planted 66 million trees in 12 hours. Something like 66 million trees in 12 hours. They set a world record by far. If they can do that in 12 hours, couldn't the whole world potentially get together, plant a lot of trees, and solve this problem? A lot of climate change people that are like just brainwashed into thinking it's a problem and they can't solve it, they're like, oh no, it's not that simple, you can't just plant trees. It actually is that simple, because trees take in CO2 and they release oxygen. So if it really is that is the problem, there's a clear solution. But once again, as always, politicians and a lot of these climate change people, all they do is scream bloody murder, but they make no effort to actually solve the problem. So if science is harming the problem, then science can fix the problem. We have the technology, we have the resources, we have billions of people. We could do the right scientific things to alter the climate. So that's my problem with the climate change debate, is they're screaming bloody murder, but nobody wants to really step up and do something about it. We don't need the government, we don't need all of these things. And now on to geoengineering. I know for a fact that there have been patents written since the 1970s about manipulating the weather. Bill Gates owns hurricane manipulation technology, or at least patents, and nobody's talking about it. I always say, if Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein and Barack Obama and all of these climate change people, I'm never going to believe them until they admit that they have or have been working on geoengineering climate technology first. I'll go with the climate change thing, but when you're screaming climate change, when you're screaming these things, but you're whispering the fact that there's potentially geoengineering and weather manipulation technology available, I don't believe you. If Bernie Sanders said, yeah, we have weather manipulation technology, or we're working on it, or somebody's working on it, but yeah, climate change is a problem too, I believe them. But they scream climate change and they are silent about geoengineering technology. Meanwhile, Google and YouTube are trying to stop people from talking about natural disasters. I mean, to me, sounds very 1984 like we're gonna, confuse people in this sense and then whisper the other one. So once again, like I said, I'm open-minded. I'm not trying to start anything. I'm just saying, part of me thinks, yeah, it's totally a natural disaster. Part of me thinks, yeah, the climate's probably changing from all of the terrible things we're doing to Earth. And part of me thinks, you know what? They could be manipulating the weather. The people who control the world, I see what they're doing with the media. I see what they're doing in other countries. I see what they're doing with the wars. it's not out of the realm that they are increasing or creating storms. In my opinion, I think it's a possibility. I'm not saying it's 100% fact. I'm not going to go around screaming it, but these are things that we have to think, especially if they're trying to stop people from talking about it. Meanwhile, they're screaming climate change, and they won't admit that they have geoengineering technology with HAARP, with some of Bill Gates' patents, and patents that go back as far as, I believe, 1975. So those are my thoughts on all that. Share this or tag somebody if you want them to see the DACA in a different light. I have love for all my people, for all my Latinos here, the millions of people here legally who never get a chance to speak on CNN or MSNBC or Fox News. God bless you guys. God bless the illegals as well. God bless everybody, and especially God bless Puerto Rico and the people of Florida who are potentially going to be devastated by this storm. My prayers, my thoughts are with you, and also my actions will be with you as well. So I'm going to keep an eye on that and try to help in any way possible. Tag somebody in this video if you want them to learn about DACA, or have a outside of the box conversation about these hurricanes, about Montana, California having a lot of wildfires. I want to spread the love and spread the awareness to all of the issues that we're having now that are getting overshadowed. And as always, you can donate. I'm going to put my link below, my donor box link. If you would like to donate to my news analysis, it helps greatly. I'm competing with major corporations that have millions of dollars, tens of thousands of employees, and we're still doing better than them. Some weeks we're reaching upwards of 50 million people. It's pretty incredible. The truth travels fast. Love, wisdom, knowledge travels really fast. I appreciate you guys more than you know. You're making all of this possible. It's incredible. Donations are great. I'm going to look to selling healthy products to you guys, being able to monetize it other ways, maybe writing a book, this and that. But for now, the donations are incredible, and it's truly amazing that we can compete with major corporations and propaganda companies literally with the click of a button, and one person with the power of millions of amazing people from all over the world. So thank you guys so much. Have a great week. I'm in New York City. If anybody's out here, just shoot me a message, holler at me. I'll be back later this week probably to do some more live streaming.